Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another story. We are doing the third part of The Legend of the Sea Doggo, which is fun. If you haven't read the other two parts, be sure you do so, because the second one left off on a minor cliffhanger. Whether or not you agree with me, whether or not that was a minor cliffhanger, not up to me to decide. It's I decided it would be easier if I ended it there. And then started off with chapter 6. Which is fine. It's only 13 chapters. So if I get a little, doesn't need to be 3 chapters per. So it would be nice to get as many done as possible, but yeah, let's get right into it, eh? Just get ready for some fun. That's fun. Ready for some fun. It's gonna be crazy. And it's going to cameo a theory that someone made from game theory. If you guys catched it, let me know in the comments. And yeah. And whether or not you think it's true or not. Because the way I wrote it just makes it work well in the lore. You'll see. There's a theory that I mentioned in here that you're gonna figure out. And yeah. Look out for it. Look out for it. Chapter 6. Danny woke up slowly, feeling a sore sensation all over his body, from the top of his head down to his feet. He opened his eyes carefully, taking the room that he was in. Lights on the ceiling were blindingly bright behind the bars of iron the cell he was permanently in. Where was he? What had happened to him? Was Stampy okay? Or had he been taken too? He sat up on the floor, feeling the hard polished stone underneath him. It was cold and dark, wiped of any color. Was he in some sort of prison? What was going on? What was he missing? Danny looked around his surroundings, noticing that there was a chest by his cell that was slightly ajar. It was a chestnut brown with an iron handle, a simple design that he was used to seeing. There didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. Was this where all his stuff was? You alright? A voice asked from over to his right. The dog turned his head to see a similar cell beside him, except it wasn't in a corner of the room. It appeared to be slightly bigger. It was in the corner of the room, and it seemed to be slightly bigger as well. The walls seemed to bounce back the light in the cell, making it hard to look at. He didn't need to see too much to know that Stampy was in the cell right next to him. But he wasn't alone. He wasn't sure if he should feel grateful or uneasy by that thought. Though. Yeah, I'm fine, Danny admitted as he stumbled to his feet, wincing as he felt a sharp pain in his shoulder where the arrow had struck him. The men obviously hadn't intended to kill them. Otherwise they'd be dead right now. What more did they want with them? Wasn't sure. That's good, the cat said in relief. You hit your head pretty hard on that wall, though, from the explosion. Yeah, I guess so, Danny said with a nervous chuckle. Well, where are we, though? Nowhere good, the cat admitted sheepishly. We've been taken down some sort of underground secret base or something. I'm not sure. Doesn't seem friendly, especially not with the guards. Sure, you're right, the interpreter said with a nod. It grew worse, right, though? Truth is, it's too soon to tell, the cat sighed. Mr. A obviously is planning something. Got that much from the men. Can't be good. Which doesn't make things easier. When will he be here? Danny asked the cat. Soon, from what I recall, the cat replied. That man does not give me pleasant memories, though. Do you think we'll get out of here before he gets here? Danny asked him, seeing the uncertainty in his friend's eyes. I'd like to hope so, the cat replied quietly. For all I know, though, our friends think we're perfectly safe, in hiding. You don't know where we've been taken out of the lovely world and transported to who knows where. That certainly is a shame, a smooth, chilling voice said over by the doorway, which was made of dark oak wood, its golden handle glowing in the bright lighting. Enough for me, though. What do you want with us, Mr. A? Stampy said firmly. Dog was surprised to see the switch from uncertainty to confidence. The cat gripped his paws on the bars. The tall man approached. His lean stature seemed to tower over the cat. There's no us in this conversation. Only you, Stampy. The man mused a smile. What do you mean? And why am I here? Danny demanded. I have something planned for this little feline friend of yours. I want to make sure at least someone sees what occurs, so you can relay back to your friends whenever you're rescued. If people care enough to even look for you. Of course they will, Stampy said defiantly. They may or they may not, but that's not a discussion for today. The man smiled coldly. We have other things in store for either way. What are you planning to do? Danny asked as the man walked over to the further side of the cat's cell, opening a secret compartment that housed a lever inside. Something our little friend won't forget. The man mused as he grabbed for the lever and pulled it down as Danny watched in shock. Part of the wall opened, revealing a larger gray creature inside of a tank of water. Its ruby red eyes seemed to glow as it traced its cell until it fixed on its target. Stampy. What is that thing? Stampy asked nervously as he took a step back. Danny felt helpless in his own cell as the monster loomed over his friend, not sure what to do. It's a piece of machinery that one of my men found in the water one day. I reprogrammed it so I would target a specific target. This thing is an Elder Guardian. I thought those things were creatures, though. Not machines, Stampy insisted. You're very wrong in that perception, Stampy cat. The man said as he shook his head as a swirly beam shot out of the creature's eye and shot at the cat. Stampy gasped as he stumbled, trying to get out of the way, leaning against the bars for support. I'd love to stay and watch as the machine drained the last bit of life out of you, but I have things to teach you. Luckily, you won't be alone in your little final moments. Consider that my gift to you. You won't get away with this, the cat said as he gasped in pain again, stumbling down to one knee as the laser shot again. Anger filled Danny as he gripped his own bars, as he watched the man walk away, laughing as they did so. Once the man was out of sight, he turned to his friend with concern. What should I do? Danny asked hastily. Is there anything I can do to stop this? Maybe flip the lever? The cat asked weakly, as he looked up at Danny before shaking its head slowly, crying out in pain as the laser shot again. The cat stumbling to the floor, gasping. I don't know how, Danny said quickly, as he looked over at the lever at the other side of the room. He could hear his friend's gasps, cries of pain, struggling to see anything. He could see the machine seemed to be edging closer towards the cat, its red eye glowing even brighter as its power only grew. If he didn't act soon, his friend could be lost forever. Suddenly, the canine had an idea as he glanced back over his shoulder at the chest not too far from itself. Maybe if he could get in there and find something that could get him out of the cell, he might have a chance to help Stampy. Danny quickly ran over to the other side of the cell, seeing the chest that was slightly ajar, trying to reach for it to see if he could pull it closer or pull something out. No matter how hard he tried, though, he couldn't do it. This is impossible, the dog told himself as he tried to reach further, hearing his friend's pain sobs behind him. He couldn't just give up. He had to do something. He never forgives himself since he failed to help a friend who needed him. Danny pulled back his paw from the chest and leaned back as he examined the situation again, noticing the iron door with a lock signifying an entrance to his cell. Maybe there was a lever he could pull to escape. You have to try. Danny rushed over to the door, reaching through the bars as he grabbed onto something. He pulled it down on it, and surprisingly, the door opened. However, when he did so, he heard a scream from over by the cat's cell. Blood ran cold as he turned to see that the enclosure that held the Elder Guardian in place had been released. As long as the water with it had been a trap. If it didn't act soon, his friend would be gone, and it would be all his fault. You see why I didn't want to leave it at this? Chapter 7. You see why? Danny ran over to the chest by his now empty cell, hearing the sound of clanking machinery as the monster pursuing his friend. He opened it and grabbed a sword from within. Danny turned back towards the cell, seeing the giant monster looming over his friend, its red eye glowing like a fury of 1,000 embers. It was about to fire. "Stampy!" Danny shouted as he ran towards the cell, opening the cell door as water sloshed into the ground. Already at his feet as it quickly began to pour in. He could hear his friend scream as the laser began to fire as Danny lunged at the machine and stabbed it in the eye, deflecting the laser and causing the machine to explode. The water causing no damage, but still thrusting the dog off his feet and onto the slippery floor below. Silence drew on for a long moment as the dog recovered from the explosion. Still dazed as he stood up from the wet floor, which was now up to his ankles, as he looked around for his friend. He found Stampy in the corner of the cell, huddled against the bars, his face paler than anything he'd ever seen. Had some effects of the laser passed through? How many times had the monster attacked him? Danny watched as the cat lifted up his head weakly, his green eyes full of pain and torment. Danny went over to his side and looked up and down. There were burns all over his friend's body, from the laser that had pierced his friend and caused undimensional pain. "I'm so sorry," Danny said quickly as he stood up and offered a hand. "You can stand?" "I don't know," the cat said softly, his voice hoarse from screaming. He hesitated. The water was now at the dog's calves now. "Please, Stampy, trust me," Danny insisted. "We're going to get out of this." The cat nodded as he wiped away a tear. He looked up at the dog. "It just hurts so much. I don't know if I can take it. Please, just give me a chance to help," Danny offered. Stampy sighed as he reached out a paw, and the dog took it, helping his friend to his feet, noticing him stumble weakly as they began to walk towards the iron door, water now rising up to their waists. Surprisingly, though, the water didn't seem to be leaking out the other side of the cell. It was all contained in here. Suddenly, as they got no more than a few steps away from the door, it suddenly slammed in their face. And Danny looked up in surprise, feeling his friend leaning on him, soft sobs still audible, even though he was trying to hide them. "Did you really think we'd let you out that easily, Dipper?" A voice said from out of nowhere. Danny looked around in confusion, trying to figure out where it was coming from. The reaction made the voice laugh. "How would you like to see me?" "Who are you and what do you want?" Danny demanded, standing by the door defiantly. Should he try barging through it? Would it be worth a try? "I'm just a humble servant wanting to fulfill my leader's wishes. My job to eliminate you," the man sneered as he stepped out of the hidden door that opened almost like magic. "Why so surprised? It's not like you haven't seen what Redstone is capable of." "I thought Mr. A wanted me alive," Danny said simply, "to let everyone know what happened." "That was his original plan," the man mused. "But you sort of ruined it for yourself by falling into his trap." "A little trap." "What trap?" Danny asked nervously. "You know very well that we have ways to ensure the nerve prisoners stay put," the man chuckled. "If you tried to leave, you would trigger a small bit of redstone that would cause something to happen to your cellmate. You had a chance to get out of it alive, but you chose to help your friend rather than simply walking away. Such a shame." "Let us out of here!" Danny demanded angrily. The man laughed and shook his head. "I can't let that happen, you Timber." "You won't get away with this," Danny said softly, leaning Stampy against the cell wall as he went to reach through the door to get to the lever on the other side. However, when he pulled it, nothing happened. "Did you really think that trick would happen twice?" The man laughed as if the scene before was the most hilarious thing he'd ever witnessed. "We've thought of everything. And unfortunately for you, there is no getting out of this one." "We'll get out of here, you'll see," Danny shouted as the man began to walk away, the water now up to his chest, as he attempted to ram against the locked door, groaning as he did so. It was no use. It would not budge. His thoughts were interrupted when he heard an audible gasp beside him. He turned to see his friend's face, looking even more frightened. The scene behind him. The dog turned to see 20 or so miniature versions of the Elder Guardians, which he knew were just regular Guardians. Their dark, beady eyes trained on one target. Stampy. Danny extended his sword once more as he stood protectively in front of his friend, preparing to fight the machines. He knew their weak spots. He could do this. This is what he was born to do. Hang on to the iron bars if you need to, Stampy, Danny replied. Or try to open a door in some way. I'll hold them off. I'll try, the cat rasped with a weak nod, as he quickly slid to the door and began trying to find a way through it as Danny swam toward the machines, taking the ugly sea green beasts one by one, ignoring the fact that he was now swimming completely, ceilings starting to come closer and closer. However, the more he fought, the more monsters there seemed to come to replace the ones he defeated. Danny knew he couldn't hold out forever, and he knew the monsters knew that too. But they weren't aiming at attacking him, but rather Stampy, who was trying to block as much as he possibly could. It seemed to be working, though. Well, as good as it could be. Danny pushed back another guardian, feeling exhausted as he continued to swim, realizing he hadn't heard from his friend in a while. Stampy, are you okay? Silence followed as he turned to see where the guardians were aiming, and he saw his friend fully submerged in water, weakly fighting off the guardian that was chasing him. Stampy! The dog shouted as he dove underneath and attacked the pursuing guardian, grabbing his friend and helping him to the surface, where there was air. The cat gasped for air as he shook his head weakly. Danny afraid to let him go in case he plummeted back down again. His friend was getting weaker and weaker. The energy from swimming wasn't helping either. What do we do now? The cat asked weakly, as his soaked fur glistening in the bright lighting. Danny could see the exhaustion in his green eyes. The cat clung onto the dog. I honestly don't know, Danny said honestly as he dodged another laser that was shooting at his friend. They're still hurting me, the cat admitted weakly. I can't open the door without at least one of the lasers zapping me. I can't do it. Maybe if Danny answered. Nothing you can do will stop those machines until we stop how they're getting in, the cat said quietly. But the lever's outside the cell. I don't know if... Danny said. Someone needs to try to reach for it. Try using the hilt of your sword or something. The cat pondered. Stampy pondered thoughtfully. That's an idea, Danny said hopefully. Do you think you can evade these guys long enough, though? I could try, the cat smiled sadly, as Danny let him go, diving into the water below as he located the place where the lever would locate him. It extended its sword and slid it backwards through the bars, managing to get the hilt to clip onto the lever and pull it back up, cutting off the redstone signal as he heard the wall closing back up and the water starting to slowly disappear. Danny swam back up to the surface, gasping for air as he looked around, trying to find Stampy. The Guardians were no longer on the surface, it seemed, which meant his friend had to be underwater, struggling to fight them off. The dog dove back into the water, glancing around until he found the shadow of a form in the water. Surrounded by Guardians, Danny dove into the massive machines and pulled his friend out, pushing them both out of the surface, both of them gasping for air. You okay? Danny asked his friend softly, looking over his pale face. Cat's eyes were heavy, and the dog feared that the Guardians had done far more harm than he'd realized. I can't do this much longer, Cat replied weakly. The water's going down. Just give it time. Danny insisted. No, look, the cat replied, pointing to the incoming Guardians, which all shot their laser in unison as the cat screamed in pain, letting go of his hold on his friend as Danny grabbed for him, pulling him close, feeling his shaking body as he grew limp. Danny had no way to stop this. Nothing he could do but continue swimming. As they swam around, though, he noticed something under them, battling the machines one by one. As the water lowered, it was even clearer as the dog noticed a man defeating each of the monsters until they were all gone. Finally, Danny was able to put his feet back on solid flooring. He stumbled to his knees, letting his friend go, Hearing himself groaning was exhaustion, pain. Everything had happened so fast. He wasn't sure what to think or how to act. You two alright? A voice asked from in front of them. Danny looked up to see a tall young man standing before them, a camouflage uniform, his dark caramel unkempt hair pressed down by a camouflage cap. Crisp hazel eyes full of concern as he knelt down at their level. Who are you? Danny asked weakly. I'm part of the rescue team, or party, the man replied. Here to rescue you, the both of you. How do I know I can trust you? Danny asked skeptically, looking down at his friend, who looked even paler in the lighting than he had realized. You know who Rose is, right? The man asked. That's Sam's aunt, right? Danny asked. The one who recommended my move? Yeah, the man smiled sheepishly. We have orders from her to get you two somewhere safe. It looks to me that you both need a doctor. You'd be right about that, Danny nodded. As he went to stand, he stumbled back down, feeling lightheaded and weak. As he did so. The others will be here soon, the man replied. We'll get you out of here. Oh no, Danny replied as his eyes grew heavy from exhaustion before he finally collapsed to the floor, remembering nothing more. Just glad that it was all finally over. They weren't on their own anymore. Help had come when they had needed it most. For that, he was grateful. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. There is more. Don't worry, there is more. And yeah. It depends on how long these chapters are, okay? But yeah, I will see you in the next one whenever that might be.